Hello, Kim. We are live,
Yay! I'm always so excited. This is the highlight of my week, Nick.
especially with our topic this week. I don't know. Are you just excited to see me, or are you excited for the topic this week because it's one of your
Oh,
favorites ever?
is it my favorite? Like, are we allowed to call it my favorite if I get like physically angry?
So
This is
everyone
how
that's
upset
watching
I get.
today, just a warning. I might get Kim a little mad.
Oh, I get so heated on this one. Okay. What's the topic, Nick?
The death of traditional sales. Kim, what is traditional sales?
What is traditional sales? Oh, okay. Traditional sales is how I was taught how to sell. I mean, this is the showing up to a job site with a box of donuts. We talked about the pop-in last week. So this is actually involving that pop-in. This is meeting every client or doing every client interaction in person in meetings. And also sometimes like the idea that there's a lot of these traditional sales types of things, right? You never meet with anyone unless they're the decision maker. You never talk about pricing until it's the proposal. You never meet with a client unless the right people are involved. And I think that we've really evolved and expanded beyond that to have these. You never do this. There's still certain things that I have as non-negotiables. But I think the idea of putting in, you cannot create a sales meeting until you are physically in person with a client is so wrong, and it needs to change now. So that's traditional sales.
Well, why does it matter? It's not like it's COVID's going to be gone in a month, and I'm going to go back to going site visits anyways.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I know, but how many times did we say, well, COVID, like, this is just going to be a short thing, right? This is just good, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, 18 months later, 24 months later, we have, after 24 months of doing a change, you do not do a 180-degree back to the way it always was. There has been now adaptations. There has been changes that we have taken on, and we found ourselves more profitable, more productive, and more efficient. And the idea that, yes, once everyone is fully vaccinated, or once we've seen herd immunity, or whatever your theory is, or you're living by the science, it doesn't matter. We have now changed the way we have seen process. If we went ahead and said, guess what? It turns out the idea of taking off your shoes at an airport is no longer necessary. And you know what? For the most part, we really don't have anybody going through airport security that is malicious. So we're just going to get rid of airport security. You would have more people afraid to fly than to think that they're going to go ahead and be more excited to fly, because they're like, well, no, we've made that change. We're not going to go back. Digital transformation does not mean that you've entirely moved your company to a preferred video communication method. We've incorporated IMing, Slack, or Google Hangouts, or anything else, and we are now set ourselves to in office and out of office or home office hours. But once that happens, it's fine. We're seeing this already when we have people that are now being forced to go back into offices. And this is now the, what is this called, like the mass exodus is what they're naming this thing. Do you think people were really genuinely excited to go back? And if we're talking about our buyers, are they really excited to have hours wasted from their day because now our salespeople are insisting that we go back to in-person meetings? I'm
Are
only effective if I'm in person.
our
Oh,
sales people or our sales leaders are pushing people to do what they've always known to be?
oh, that's such a good. I think I think it's both. I think it's both. And I think
Mm,
it's like, I think you have certain sales leaders, right? The same as any type of business leader. We need you in person. If we don't see you, we think that you're not doing work. If you're not in person with your clients, you are not actually meeting with your clients. And I think you have salespeople that feel the exact same way. I they will claim that it's because their clients don't find video conferencing as effective. I'll tell you what, if your clients as an organization have not been able to adapt to video calls and conferencing over the last 24 months, I can guarantee you they are not a good client for you because they're probably not going to continue to be in business. I have yet to find out any company that has not embraced in some capacity video conferencing and video conferencing tools, whether for internal purposes or external purposes. And thank you, Vivian, for the comment down here, right? It is such an outdated comment. You're absolutely right. Like, we should not go ahead and say it's black or white. We're allowed to have shades of gray. But we
mhm,
do need to start looking to ourselves at what is the future going to hold. And if we're going to only insist that that's the way we've always done it, as a way of continuing to build the conversation with our clients, you are going to be so out of business so fast. Because if you're not doing it, your competitors are doing it. If you're not allowing your buyers to connect with new sellers online, then don't do it. We were talking about RFPs for a reason. And RFPs, they don't allow sellers to do this. Well, guess what? The reason why in RFP cycles we didn't allow sellers to connect with buyers in an RFP cycle is because every RFP cycle required a in-person communication, or sellers only required in-person communications anytime. But what if you were in a buying situation and you are hosting an RFP and you decided we're going to have all of our calls recorded so we know what the conversation is. We're going to limit the amount of time that you are meeting with the client. We're going to give you 20 minutes. And at 20 minutes, you are to immediately turn off the camera. How much more effective do you think as a buyer you would get response? How much more creative do you think you would get that information? And if you didn't have time to attend that information, you would have transcriptions of the conversation. We know
mhm.
where we're allowed to converse and where we're not, and we can see the fairness as we go forward. I think from both buyers and sellers, we need to look at the brand new way of doing business, using video, using shorter meetings to be able to get to information quicker. And if we're saying, listen, we can only do it if we're in person, I'm meeting you in person or not, awesome. Thank you very much. We will find someone who will. We will find someone who can concise their information, who can write it succinctly. It is easy to make meetings long. It is easy to make concepts complex. It is hard to do it simple, and it is hard to do it inside a specific time frame. And that is what we need to start challenging our teams and our individuals and our sales leaders to ultimately do. Because in 2 years' time, 4 years' time, 10 years' time, that is now what the market is going to demand, not the other way around.
I can't remember who said it, but they
You see
said
the
something
fire coming
around.
out of my head.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like, ooh, we got a live one here. Uh, they said that if you wanted me to go and speak, they deliver a speech. If you wanted me to go and step on the stage right now, and I had unlimited time, I'm ready. If you want it to be an hour, I need a half an hour.
Yeah,
If you want it to be less than 5 minutes, I need a couple weeks. Like,
yeah,
why would you need more time for less time? Because I need to know my audience and make every word count.
absolutely. Right. Mark Twain said this, right? Had I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. This is why we need to, like, this is why traditional sales is done, because we used to leave it up to the devices of every individual. We thought the art was being able to have these long conversations. We thought the art was being able to take your clients out for golf games. But listen, if you had 4.5 hours to spend with a client, do you think that you would be able to get what you needed? Probably. If you couldn't, then you definitely failed. Do you think good salespeople, though, can take that same amount of time that they've developed in 4 hours, the same amount of information that they've gathered in 4 hours, and be able to get it in an hour? Be able to get it in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, right? We're not talking about, just taking a standard hour-long meeting and saying, "Okay, we're just gonna take it by half." It's now
Mhm.
being specific and intentional about what did we cover in that hour that was most relevant, that was
Mhm.
most impactful, and then let's just draw to that. Taking a meeting from 30 minutes to 20 minutes isn't just saying, "Well, just take out 10 minutes." It's about being even more intentional and more specific about how do you get to that time frame. I
Mhm.
rarely, like, I wanna say, like, and when I say rarely, I wanna say, like, 1% of my first level meetings are ever an hour now. And that was so common, right? It
Mhm.
was common to set up your entire day and be like, "I'm gonna meet this client and this client." And if you were lucky, if you were busy, you could probably get 3, maybe 4 meetings in a day because you had to
Mhm.
travel, you visited, you sat in the waiting room, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna answer a couple of emails." You went for lunch, you went to another client meeting, you showed up at the office, and you filled out your CRM. Well, that was great. How many meetings like, Nick, on a busy day today, like, how many meetings do you honestly have? He's counting.
Four,
Do you need some
5,
fingers? Some toes?
6.
6.
Yeah.
6 meetings now, right? On a busy day, and these are client output facing meetings. 6 meetings. Like, that would be, like, 2 or 3 days worth of work, and now today, you're able to do 3 days worth of work in a single day, right?
And I think
Why?
what I think is so great too is that, like, I'm looking at my meetings, and these meetings came from me taking on a little bit of marketing and building relationships. And so I love your example of the golf game. Why was
Yeah,
golf so perfect, or squash, or anything where you had them captive for amount of time? Well, you got to build that relationship and nurture that line of conversation. And
yeah.
so now we have LinkedIn, now we have YouTube, now we have all these different platforms where they may have been following you for 3, 6, a year before they ever reached out to you. And so we don't need that extra time anymore because we're so much further in the process now because the way people buy has changed, the way people research has changed. So we don't have to dot the I's and cross the T's because it's not our job anymore for the most part.
Yeah, or drinks in the industry, absolutely, right? And I mean, this is really what this is about. I mean, it's cross though, right? We don't need that information. Number one, they're following us, but we can also follow them. I mean, I'm having so many LinkedIn conversations lately. I just finished speaking at Inbound last week. Thank you, and a shout out to number one, the Inbound team, the HubSpot team. It was great to see you. If you saw me on Inbound 30 virtual selling trends, let me know. If you missed it, also let me know because I have an opportunity. We took the 30-minute virtual selling trends into 20 minutes. Yet again, how much harder is it to go from 30 minutes to 20 minutes? But what we ended up doing was we had a lot of inbound conversations. People are reaching out to us on LinkedIn. We're reaching out to them, and now all of a sudden, I'm not in person with you anymore, but I can scroll through your profile and I can find easily 3, 4, 5 commonalities. Even
Mhm.
someone with a blank slate profile, you think it's really blank, you can find commonalities very quickly if you're searching hard enough. And that immediate allows you to have that rapport building that we were able to go ahead and have that conversation online, right? Like when we were offline or we're at the golf game, right? So you a family person, Nick? You got any kids? Right? Now I only have to show up to your profile and see in one of your postings you talked about your kids. And I'm like,
Mhm.
how now this is why rapport is like so much different nowadays, right? This is why when people say it's so much harder to build relationships online, it's because you're lazy,
Yeah,
right?
you just
It's
showed up thinking that the work was gonna be done. Did you go and do a basic Google search before you started that meeting? Like, how many
oh
people one of my favorites is Twitter.
yeah,
Twitter,
uh,
most people are personal, and so they
they're
put their
personal.
and so you get to go and find those things, and you spend what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I'm asking you a way better question. Asking you, "So are you a family person, Nick?" That's superficial, right?
Mhm.
That's me just saying, "Let me try to find a fast commonality," right? Whereas if I say, "Hey, Nick, I saw you had kids. What are their ages?" Now that's digging in deeper. I take in 30 seconds and I have a more specific question, right? Nick is more connected to me in one question than he was before. What's the difference? How much more connected do you feel to someone if they say, "What ages? I saw you have kids. What ages are they?" Or, "Do you have kids?" Right? One of
Yeah.
them is like yes or no, and the other one is like really like, "Oh, cool, let's talk about this. Hey, I saw that you have a dog. What kind of dog do you have? Do you like animals?" Right? Like which one is going to get you a better relationship?
Have you
And this
been
is
cold called
oh,
lately?
I haven't been. You know what? I don't know. I haven't been. Have you been cold call lately?
Yes. And my favorite, well, I think people think that I'm the person to go and talk to just because they want to go and sell something or want to talk about marketing or whatever. But they always ask me, "So what's your role?"
Yeah.
It's like the first question, "What's your role? What do you do there?"
How
It's like,
did you find my phone number? Was it my LinkedIn profile?
well, that's why I'm sitting there. I'm like, if you would have spent a grand total of 10 seconds,
Yeah.
you would have had this answer. And so how much talking about starting from behind,
Yeah.
why would you not want to start at ground zero? Why would you purposely go back, 10 steps and make that disconnect? Like, I don't get it.
Oh, it is so terrible. It's, but, like, we're coming back to the idea of the death of traditional sales, okay? It might not be dead today, okay? But it was going to be dead in the future. And
Mhm.
the big question here has to be when? When will it be done? When will the idea of forcing in-person meetings no longer be an option? Right now, when I'm training teams, we talk about, well, did you provide virtual? Did you provide video as an option for a meeting? Right.
Mhm.
And more people are like, yeah, I provided as an option. And they're ecstatic when like the client actually says yes. When is the time going to happen where the option is going to be, would you prefer to meet in person? Right? Like, is it happening now? Is it going to happen in the future? Maybe it's just not even going to be an option anymore. Because what we're seeing is that geographies are starting to expand. I can't get on a plane and like fly for a full day for one meeting. Like that is a
Mhm.
terrible waste of time for me. Whereas if I'm going to go, I better have a whole bunch of meetings stacked up, or I better make it count in some way. It had better show me that in person is only, if I do this in person, is only going to get me to a certain value. I will do it. Don't get me wrong, but it is going to be last step in the sequence. It's not going to be meeting number one. And I think we need to like really start asking ourselves as sales leaders, this is what we need to start doing. We need to start thinking about how we're moving ourselves in that direction. It means that as sales leaders, when we go to hire a salesperson, we should start having like interviews 20 minutes long, entirely online, and start asking them, what research did you do for this meeting? Right? What questions do you have? And if you can't have an interview in 20 minutes long that makes you feel like this person is going to be worth moving forward, then what is it going to be like for your buyer to think this was a valuable meeting? And we should start making that as a non negotiable. As
Mhm.
sales leaders, what we need to start doing is we need to start hosting the occasional like video call training, right?
Mhm.
If we're going to do role play, let's start doing role play online. Let's start doing some role plays through video calls, and let's find out if our people are doing this. And as sales individuals, as professionals, we need to start limiting the amount of time. Start with 30 minutes and see if you can bring yourself down to 20. I have entire teams that are like, "Oh, there's no way we could do a 30-minute meeting," right? Except when you do and you realize how much more valuable you made it. Because
Mhm.
when you go ahead and you're doing that, like, it's so much more. Waiting, the hurry up and wait, well, we'll just wait. Great. And then what happens? right? So let's assume let's assume that you can be back in person with your clients, right? What then? Right? At what point will you start to move over towards virtual sales? Right? I mean, if not now, when?
What's the advantage to even going back, really? C-suite are even asking us. They're saying that they love that we're doing virtual first meetings because they get to
Mhm.
establish credibility from day one, and they're in. And they're
Yeah.
even saying post first meeting, they love asynchronous video. They want videos because what they hated was the telephone game. You know,
Oh,
so and so told me this and so told me that, but when I saw your video, it wasn't even what you were talking about. But then you sent me those videos for me to review, and I sent them to the entire team. We're in. So
yeah.
now we're having faster sales cycles. People are better informed. People know what's going on.
Oh,
Why?
don't even get me started on phone calls.
Kim loves phone calls. In particular, she
Ah,
loves cold calls. She says that they are going to be the
and voicemail.
2022.
Voicemail. We need to start having a list. I think we have to start having a list on things that we are ready to let die. Voicemail is definitely one. I saw somebody was posting on LinkedIn not too long ago, and they're like, "Here's how I leave a great voicemail message." Right? I don't even leave my phone number. I just tell them like, "Don't worry about this. I'm going to send you an email." So I'm like, so then what was the purpose? Like, if you're just going to send them an email, you're now going to force them to listen to your entire voicemail just to let them know that you sent them an email, right? Like, are they going to, or is it the moment that they hear that voicemail that they say, they see because their chances are they're going to see the email first before they see the voicemail. The moment they see the email come through, I left you a voicemail, and they're like, "Hey Nick, hey Nick, it's Kim. I'm going to leave you a voicemail." Are you automatically deleting that? And you're like, "Well, thanks for wasting my time." Right? Yeah, it wasn't a long time, but what Facebook has determined is that we have attention spans of 7 seconds. And even if it's a 7-second voicemail, which I can almost guarantee you very few people are leaving 7-second voicemails, but even if it was, that immediately took my attention away from task A to you. You monopolized my time. And is that valuable?
I want to go and pull up Jill's comment, and without asking too many questions, I would like you to address this one because we hear this all the time. Every single week we hear this that it doesn't work and it doesn't work for industries and that some things are too complex, and it's a very very common thing. So Kim, would you like to
Yeah.
answer this for Jill?
Oh, of course, right? If the client only insists on a 20-minute meeting that you're willing to walk away, I massively argue that. Like if they only agree to a 20-minute meeting and nothing more after that, okay, fair enough, right? If they want a 20-minute meeting to determine is this worth more of my time, I think that's completely fair. And I think the other side of this is we need to start turning it around. Instead of just saying, let's spend that 20 minutes trying to convince the client why we need to work with them more, if we turn this around and say, you know what, in 20 minutes, let's try to figure out if this is even worth us working with this client. Is this even a client we want to work with? Is this a project that we want to take on? And let's start asking them questions to figure out, is this going to be worth more of our time in the future? I think that mentality shift will completely change the game. Because the moment we start to move it around and we say in 20 minutes, Nick, you now had to convince me if you're worth being my client, right? Wow, right? You've taken the power into the situation. And we've done it so subtly because what we'll do is we'll end up asking a ton of like questions we want to understand. And based on those responses, we can determine if it's valuable more. And creating, specifically in virtual sales, value is created in space. Right, we have a meeting and a meeting and a meeting. In traditional sales, this is some things like traditional sales got right, but they forgot to adapt it. In traditional sales, one of the things that we would do is in the proposal, we constantly have the client saying yes. Yes, 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 right? Does this make sense? Yes. Do you see this working in your company? Yes. Does this solution look like the right solution for you? Yes. The idea is that we would yes stack. Yes, 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 yes. The more the person said yes, the harder it was for them to pull away. In virtual sales, we do the same thing, but with short meetings. Because if you say yes to the first meeting and within 20 minutes, we agree that this is something we want to continue on, you have to book a second meeting. So now I'm getting the second yes. In the second meeting, we might have all the information we need to provide you a proposal, but we're not. We're going to have another meeting just to make sure that you, as the client, are convinced that we're the right solution for you. I'm convinced that I have the right solution for you. I'm convinced I can provide all the things that you need for your services. You, as the client, may not be there yet, right? We're still in consideration, and so we want to get you to that next yes, 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 until I feel like Nick is 80% of the way there. I feel that he has decided that this is the right solution for him. Okay. So yes, I think you need to have the 20-minute meetings. And if you're willing to walk away from that, like if it was the opposite and you were in the buyer position, all right, and somebody couldn't create value for you within 20 minutes, or you didn't have a great enough conversation, would you be willing to go more than that? I think this is so good. I think we're at time, Nick. I think we're going to take this conversation somewhere else.
Yes, we're gonna go to Zoom. So I will go and throw the Zoom link in, and we can go and carry it over there. I think one thing just to say is know your process, like you were saying, Kim.
Yeah.
We are not in a place anymore where we do one meeting and do everything. It One meeting is a good way to work for free. Gotta know your process. So I'm gonna go through the link in Zoom. Everybody wants to join us for Q&A with Kim, and I will see everyone on the other side.